All right, English. I've wanted to get you on the CITIUS Mag podcast for a long time because it's been about, 11 years of me covering the sport, and ever since day one, basically, I've been a big fan of yours, just watching you light it up on the track. But your story is just amazing, and I feel like it's been told in Sports Illustrated. There's been a couple other articles, but I love podcasting and I
Yeah.
guess just the way we get to hear you tell the story for yourself. I
Absolutely.
pulled up this New Jersey newspaper article that was 2 years ago now, I guess. And the way it starts off: as a child, her family went through 2 stretches of homelessness in South Jersey. Right after she entered Eastern High School, her mother fought stage 3 breast cancer. Her father struggled with dangerously high blood pressure. That's just how the story starts, English. So
Yeah.
from the beginning of your entire journey, you've been a fighter. And so I'm glad we finally get to, I want to hear the story from yourself. So where do we start?
Man, I guess we can really start at just realizing, yes, I am a fighter. I kind of pride myself in that a little bit, knowing that things have kind of transpired in my life that are, some people will say, are just, bad circumstances. I'm so appreciative of every circumstance that I've ever been through. It made me the monster, I guess, that I call myself. Like, I'm a beast. I'm hard to take down, hard to get rid of. It started, I guess, when I was younger. I started track. 9 years old was when I kind of took it serious. I kind of noticed that, okay, I'm kind of fast. I was raw talent, of course, running USATF and AAU track and field for Relatable Track Club. But just fast forwarding, I guess, once I got to high school, that's when things kind of started getting a little crazy. The homeless stuff was definitely a small part of, growing up, but my parents did everything they could to make sure that I never felt those moments the way I should have. To me, when we were all piled up in a hotel at one point, I thought it was a big vacation. And my parents have always instilled in me that you have to make sure that you make the best out of every moment. And that's what we did. So I never really felt the pressure of that situation. I think the main part where I really felt like, man, life is like turning up on me a little bit is when my mom did get diagnosed with cancer. It was my freshman year. They gave my mother a 30% chance of living. They told her to go home and tell her kids that she was dying. And she did that. As strong as she was, she did that. And I watched my mom throughout my whole freshman year go through extensive chemo, extensive radiation. I watched her go from 130 pounds to maybe weighing about 95, just skin and bones. I was there when my mom first lost her hair. So it was a lot of moments that kind of groomed me. But in that process, though, my parents still, every single time, were like, look, you have goals, you have dreams, you can achieve them. These circumstances don't make you, in a sense of they will change the trajectory of where your life is going. They're here for pushes. And if you use it as a push and not a crutch, you'll do amazing things. And I think I took that very seriously in high school. My freshman year was rough, but I ended up being a state champion, ended up winning Meet the Champions. I ran my butt off, man, and I contribute that to my problems in my life because I was able to find refuge in track and field, and that's where the love started. I've always loved this sport, but I didn't fall deeply in love. Like, you kind of have to be madly in love to love track and field because it's such a gruesome sport in the sense of it's the only sport, in my opinion, that really shows how far the body can go, how far it can jump, how fast it can run, how far you can throw things. It's a sport that really tests the human body. And not only was my physical body tested during these trials, but my mental was tested as well. So it created this person you see today that no matter what is thrown at me, I'm gonna get the job done. And so I guess fast forwarding, I've had a lot of success in the sport as well. I've been running now professionally for 10 years, I was told today. It's been 10 years since I joined the world of track and field professionally. And I think maybe last year was my first year that I felt like, in my opinion, I bombed. I did not make the world team. and it was at University of Oregon, which was another bomb because I'm like, I'm home, not supposed to lose home. And it happened. It was a rough year mentally. I think because of all of the trials that I've went through throughout my career, I had a sense of burnout a little bit, where I had to refocus and re-fall in love with the sport and not get so caught up in the business part of everything, and just really understand that, you know, I'm here to compete. I'm here because I'm one of the best in the world, and to just remind myself of that. I've had a couple knee surgeries in between there. I tore my ACL the first time in '09. I was in high school, young girl, didn't know what I was gonna do, just rehabbed. I came back like it was nothing, never thinking that I was gonna be in that same position again later on in life. I think 2016, the February before Olympic trials, I was doing some stadiums at UCLA, felt a little crunch in my knee again, same knee, and I tore my meniscus. During that process, 2012, I had missed the world team, the Olympic team, and I only made it for the relay. And I was a little disappointed about that because I had been running great all year. Obviously, I was young, you know, and I was the only collegiate runner in the finals at the Olympic trials in 2012, and it was an experience, but I was disappointed by that. So when 16 came around and I did have a meniscus tear at the time, I chose not to get surgery. I chose to just run on a torn meniscus and just go all the way to the Olympics. I ended up snagging a gold medal, which was insane. That whole process was insane as well, because if you know any of the backstory, like, we got disqualified, but then reinstated, and it was just a whole bunch of stuff going on. And it's always been an uphill battle with me with track and field, but it's shown me that anything that I really want to do, I have the ability to do. And from all of these obstacles that I've had, I've never really seen it as an opportunity to quit this thing, you know? And a lot of people tell me, you've been through so much, why don't you just like hang it up? You've gone to the Olympics, you've brung home 2 medals, you've been top 10 of all time in your sport. Like, you've done enough, but I'm addicted to it. And until that burning desire kind of goes away, I'm gonna continue to run, I'm gonna continue to be the fighter that I am. And I see now that it's more so of a story that I have to tell and get out to make sure that, you know, the generations after me know, like, obstacles happen, life happens, but what you do with it matters. So that's where we're at now.
It's crazy. I gave you one question. You walked me through all the ups and downs, and in that process, you mentioned about like having to fall in love with the sport again, especially after the down year or so that you classify last year as. What does that process look like when it's like, the sport has given you such great moments and some low points, but you had to rekindle that passion for it recently. Like, how'd you do it?
It's been tough. It's still an ongoing battle. I always tell people that depression isn't something that you cure. It's something that you learn how to cope with. There's always going to be moments where I feel like I'm going to look at the sport and look at some of the disappointments that I've had and be sad about them. And I think this process this year, even after last season, I think I took a process to kind of figure out why I've felt so jaded by the sport, and if it was the actual sport or the business that surrounds the sport. And when I've kind of identified that track and field honestly hasn't done anything to me, it's given me some phenomenal opportunities. I've traveled the world. I do something that I love as an occupation, which is hard to find and hard to do, Like, I can't say that I hate my job. I love my job. But I think that's what it was. It was just learning that the business part of track and field isn't track and field. It isn't me running on the track. I should be fine. I've been through a couple of injuries, which has affected some of my contractual agreements. It has affected some of my sponsorships. The interviews don't come in as much. There was a period in time where I kind of felt forgotten in the sport. And when you're a high-level athlete, they don't really prepare you for you being on top of the world and then being pushed off. And that was something that I had to figure out, is how to adapt with the free fall. Because that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like you're losing everything when you get hurt or when you don't perform as well. It's kind of like someone literally just pushed you off the edge of the cliff and you have to figure it out. But I've also realized that you can't achieve anything great by just standing on the edge. You have to jump. Because when you jump, then you realize who you are and what you can do and who you can be. And so now, moving on to this new season, I realized that I'm strong, like stronger than I give myself credit for. And as long as I know in my mind I am that person that I've always been, then nothing that comes in this path will kind of change that. I have to keep reminding myself of who I am every day. Look at myself in the mirror and telling myself, like, you're the greatest of all time. Whether a newspaper has written it, whether you get messages or whether reps tell you, you know, magazines write about it, it doesn't matter. You've come back from 3 major knee surgeries in the same leg and still run at a high capacity. Only other person I think I know has done that is probably Devin Allen. I think I'm one up on him with the knee surgeries. I think I got 1 more knee surgery than him. He's torn twice too. So it's like, it's a process that, you know, it's a day by day kind of thing. And I think track and field is a competition where you have to be confident in your ability. It's 99% mental. That other percent, you know, that's in the weight room, it's in practice. But when you step on the line, if your mental isn't strong, you will suffer. So I have not only this year trained my physical body, but I've been making sure that I've been taking the time to train my mental as well.
You had a ton of great moments at Oregon, and then even in those first few years as a professional. I mean, it carried all the way through 2019, really, where you're still at the top of the U.S. sprints. But as you said, kind of over the years, new younger stars have come up, and it's like you'll always have the U of O super fans who remember you in that green and orange uniform. Yeah. Now, as a professional, I'm sure it's like a green and orange. Sorry. Yellow and orange. What?
Yellow
and green. Wow, brain fart. But so with a shiny new toy, right? New professional athlete comes up, runs crazy fast. Like, that's those moments where you've said then, like, oh, they forget about you. Let's remind people, and like one of my favorite things to ask, you know, professional athletes in track and field is like, why should fans root for you? No one's endured as much as you, but if you look to a fan why should they root for English Gardner in 2023?
I think people should root for me in 2023 because I'm just like them. I pride myself in not being this robot. I have mistakes. I have down moments. I wake up tired. I wake up not wanting to go to practice some days. I am a regular human being. I feel like I'm very relatable and I'm open with my battles, you know, and a lot of athletes aren't. A lot of athletes think that they have to hide their scars, and I show the world every scar that I have. And I want people to watch me not only because I run really fast. I want them to glean off of my strength because the world is hard. I mean, we've noticed, you know, after 2020, I think everybody can attest that with prices going up, cost of living is high, people lost jobs, people lost family members, people were sick in their bodies. The superstar doesn't just need to be glitz and glamour. It needs to be relatable. That superstar needs to be a human just like them. And I think that's something that I carry everywhere I go. I'm a regular girl from South Jersey. I love track and field, but I also love the fact that at any given moment, I can turn the switch on and be the badass that everybody sees me as. And that's what I want for my career. I no longer value the monetary things about track and field. I don't value the contracts. I don't value the TV time, but I value to be a person that never quits. And because I don't quit, I can't lose. And I want other people to adapt that mindset when they're in their regular life. Yeah, you have 26 things that you have to get done in your work life, and they only give you about 6 hours out of the day to get it done, and your boss is hounding on me, but you can do it. And that's kind of what I want my career to kind of model, is that you can take every lesson that I've learned in track and field and every battle that I've fought in my career and take it and put it into your life and figure out who you're supposed to be. I think life is all about fighting your battles so that someone else doesn't have to. So if me just being the fighter that I am and they fall in love with that enough to want to be a fighter too, then I've done my job in life. I have nothing else to offer it.
Is this just life that taught you just kind of like all of this? So just the wisdom and just like hearing you speak, it's sort of like, isn't that something so easy that you had one mentor pass all of this on to you? This is just like life lessons that have built you into the person that you are.
Yeah, some of my friends call me a monk because
it's like Eliud Kipchoge is the Yoda of the marathon.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting here with the Yoda of the sprints.
Yeah, but I contribute a lot of this through my parents. So my parents are pastors. I've been in church all my life. And one thing about faith and faith teachings, no matter what religion you're in, they all kind of teach the same thing: perseverance, being of goodwill, and just overall spreading love. And so with those three things, I feel like there's nothing in this life that can kind of come my way that I can't use those three things to kind of push through. And so I think that's kind of where I got my zenness from in high pressure situations, is because I literally have trained my mind and my body to be present in the moment and to be just centered. Centeredness for me is like my biggest thing. Like when I first went pro, I remember standing in press conferences and even in Olympic trials in 2016 when I won the Olympic trials. A lot of people don't even know that I attempted suicide that same year. And I remember crossing the line and just falling to my knees and crying, and everybody's thinking like, oh, she's crying because she just made a team and she's been working all hard. But I'm just like, no, I almost spoiled this moment. I almost let it go by because I was crying over circumstances. And I've always kind of been that person that I gotta stay on top of it. I have to be centered. I had this little thing when I was 9 years old where I used to wear a rubber band on my wrist. And one coach asked me one day, he was like, why do you always have a rubber bands? You always have rubber bands on you. What, are you counting money all the time? And I'm like, no. When something comes up in my life and it's affecting me emotionally or physically and I feel like it's unbearable or I feel like I can't control it, I take the rubber band and I pop it as hard as I can. And it reminds me that that situation doesn't hurt as much as that rubber band pop. So if it doesn't hurt as much, then I have the ability to get through it. Our bodies are amazing. Our minds are amazing. I believe that whatever God or religion you believe in, the Creator created us to be phenomenal beings. And we don't even use all of the assets that we have within us. And we don't really know all of the abilities that we have. And I've made it a goal, just as I do track and field, to groom myself to be some of the fastest people in the world. I want to know everything I can do with my body, mentally, physically. A lot of the races that I won, I wasn't physically prepared for them. The Olympic trials, I had a torn meniscus. And I ran my PR, 10.74, with a torn meniscus. And I'm like, that had nothing to do with my physical ability. It was all my mental. So I pride myself in being a sprint monk, you know?
Yeah. Can you be a monk? And then when does the beast come out? When do you, is in the, I just asked this to Dalila too. It's like, is it the call room? Is it when you step on the track? When does the beast come out? Especially with you, we've seen the antics and just the excitement that pours out of you after these races.
I believe I'm very zen all the way until I actually step foot at the track. So breakfast, I'm laughing and joking, you know. I'm pretty regular. I bring my Xbox to every game and meets, you know, I'm not any different than an average young athlete, you know. I'm playing Call of Duty before I get out on the track and stuff, and laughing and joking with my agents and my dad and my coach. And but when I step foot on the track, it's just like, I always tell people it's a personality change. I'm not the same person. Sometimes I don't even remember some of the stuff that I've done at track meets. Like, a lot of people will tell me, like, you know, you were so crazy in the call room, you were rapping loud and singing and throwing your hands up and going crazy. And I'm like, I don't remember any of that, because I just get into a flow, I get into a zone. And once I'm there, it's kind of hard to come down too. So a lot of times I notice, like, the meet will be over and I'm in my hotel room just staring at the ceiling, because I'm still like hyped up from the meet and still that same person. But yeah, it definitely doesn't click until I get to the meet. And I kind of like it that way, because you can get burnt out before the meet. You know, you can run your race before you get to the race. And so I try to keep it as light as possible. But once I get there, it's like, it pours out of me and I can't control it.
There's such a thing as like being way too hyped too early for a race. I mean, we talked to Marvin when we were in Eugene, and he was like, he told the story about how one day he came down to breakfast at 7 a.m., had the headphones on, blasting Tupac, and it was like, then he had a really bad race, because it's like 7 a.m. is not the time to be listening to Hail Mary.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's kind of how I feel too. I listen to very calm music in the mornings. I go to breakfast and try to even act like I'm not at a competition. Like, I want it to be as light as possible, because I don't want to turn into that person too early. Like, even me and my coach, like, he knows sometimes we can't even eat breakfast together because we're like feeding off of each other's energy. I see him and immediately I feel like, oh, it's game time, you know? And my agent, like, I tell him to stay away from me as well, because I associate track and field with him. So it's like, I just try to kind of stay to myself. I play video games in my room, but once I put that uniform on, I'm on that bus and I'm headed over to the track, it's game on.
Is it hard to have sustained, I mean, Allison Felix and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price made this look easy in terms of just being able to carry a professional career for 2 decades, basically.
Yeah.
What does it take to stay on top for this long? You've been doing it 10 years now.
You got to give yourself room. I've noticed that. I've watched Allison. She was one of the first people who really took to me. Do we need to stop because they're talking? Or? Okay. She's one of the first people who really took to me when I first went professional. She showed me where I was supposed to go. She showed me call room etiquette and stuff like that, and just how she carried herself, you know. And I watched her career. Sonia Richards as well. I watched her career. She had a long longevity of career too, and you know, believe it or not, even looking at Dalila, she's had a long career too. I believe we kind of entered in the professional world around the same time, and we're both still going, and she's still breaking world records. And I'm just like, man, I think it's the room. It's knowing that you don't have to be perfect. It's knowing that this is a process. It's like building a cake. You don't just throw all the ingredients in a bowl, dry, wet, and just don't crack the eggs. Just throw them in there and put it in the oven and think you're gonna get a beautiful cake. It takes time. It's a delicacy. And I think because I've realized that, I've been able to give myself room. In the 10 years that I've been pro, I've only bombed 1 season. So it's like, I knew it was bound to happen, you know, soon. No athlete wants to have a season where they're not on top of the world, not on top of their game, but it was necessary because now I know the mistakes that I did make, the mental mistakes, the physical mistakes, I can clean them up, and it's all a learning process. And I think that's something that Allison has taught me too. It's just like, it's a learning process. You have to let yourself grow. And you want to be this great thing. And I always use the box analogy because it's like, I have this box and I'm putting in my gold medals that I want, my silvers that I have already, the world championships that I want to go to, the Olympics that I want to go to, but all of those big moments are kind of too big to be fitting in one little box. And so if you break out of that and give yourself room, you allow yourself to have a journey instead of just a destination. And that's something that I've kind of embraced, that my career and not in a million years when I was young did I think that I would be running professionally for 10 years. You know, when I was 9 years old, I told my dad I wanted to go to the Olympics and get a medal, you know, get a gold medal. And if I do that, I'll be good. I'll probably stop running. I'll be done. Well, 2016, I went to the Olympics and I got a gold medal. And then I sat in my room and I was like, now what? And that's when I realized, like, it's a journey. And I have to take whatever life and the universe throws at me and appreciate those moments, but capitalize on them the best way I am, with the person that I am in that moment. You know, I'm not going to be 10.74 every day.
Yeah.
I may be a 10.9 that day, but if I can will it out and be the best 10.9, it's going to look amazing. You know what I mean? So it's like I just embrace the journey and just not put limitations on my career. And looking back now, and I concentrated on the process instead of the outcomes. When I was trying to make the Olympic team in 2012, I only cared about going to the Olympics, and I didn't get there. 2016, I focused on the work. I focused on who I was that day. Every day I made sure I won. Every rep I made sure I won. My mom, she's such a wise woman with so many cliches. She says so many cliches. We always say as kids that we're gonna write a book and just put all my mom's cliches in there. But she told me one day, she was like, you know, English, you have really big goals. They're huge. You can eat an elephant, but you gotta eat it one piece at a time. So that's what I've been doing, taking it moment by moment and day by day, rep by rep. And sooner or later, I'm at big competitions and I'm doing what I have to do. 2021, I caught COVID, I think, like 3 weeks before the Olympic trials. And, you know, my luck, I ended up being a long hauler. So I had like crazy, terrible symptoms and even having to get like EKGs before I even left for the Olympics and stuff to make sure that I'm like good. But I made the team. And it was just like, it wasn't because I was physically prepared. It was just because I just was in the moment and I made sure that I was going to capitalize on whatever moment the universe gave me. I'm blessed, and I realized that, and just got to be there. Got to give yourself room.
Do you feel like you've made a dent at all in terms of just like consuming this elephant, like, or there's? I mean, there's
no way,
a lot.
no way. I honestly expect a moment out of me that is going to blow my mind, but it's going to be kind of hard because I have huge expectations for myself. Like, I was super ecstatic about running 10.74, but I want to get as close to the world record as I can. So for me, I didn't blow my mind then. I may have shocked the world, but I didn't shock myself. So I am living with expectations that I will blow my entire mind. And when that happens, I'm probably going to lose it on the track, kind of like I did in 2016, but maybe a little bit more contained. But that's the big goal. I don't think I've made a dent at all on the elephant. I have a lot more pieces to swallow.
I like that. So for this year, I guess, what are the goals? What are you optimistic about? Are you feeling like, you know, the COVID's behind you and everything? Back to
I'm healthy.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing. I'm so grateful. My training has been going amazing. I switched a lot up about my training this year. I'm 30 now. So training is a lot different at 30 than it was at 25, 22, 19. Recovery is a lot different, and I'm embracing that. But I also realized that my body's a lot more mature. My muscles are a lot more mature. I'm a lot more mature in my sprint mechanics. And so I'm excited to see the mature runner that I am now and add in, you know, a little bit of my craziness and whatever freak thing that I decide to do and whatever special moment come out of that. You know, that's what I'm excited about. I want to be one of the top in the world, not just the US. I want to be one of the tops in the world again. I want to be on the podium. I want an individual medal. And these are the goals that I'm just telling myself every day in practice. And practice has been going insane. I mean, I've been running really good. This is the first year that I feel like my sprint mechanics have been like where I want them to be. And so I'm excited to see what they line up against certain competitions. I'm going to participate in a little bit more indoor this year.
Okay.
And just see, you know, what these old legs give me. You know?
All right. I love it. Well, English, thanks so much for doing this. I'm pumped. We'll see you at Milrose for sure.
Of course.
And I'm ready to follow you along on this journey. This
Absolutely.
is fantastic.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.